podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
5 weeks into the new NFL season, and there are no longer any undefeated teams. That's right, the 1972 Dolphins squad can once again lay claim to being the only team in the modern era to complete a season undefeated. There is, however, one team still searching for their first win. The New York Jets, humbled by the Dallas Cowboys last Sunday, now head to London, where it doesn't get any easier, because awaiting them this Sunday at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is a Denver Broncos side who've just been into the home of the reigning Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles, and walked away with a victory. As for the show, well, it's good news. If for a second straight week, 2-1, a winning record against the line, and after that fairly ordinary start to the season, we are inching ever closer to that even 500 mark, 6-8-1 on the season so far, and we're not taking it lightly. This weekend's a big weekend, and to that end, Charles Dagnall will once again rejoin the show, but not just from his usual humble dwellings, oh no. He's made the trip across the pond. He's coming from Vancouver, Canada, and he's getting the inside track on exactly what the heck is going on in the National Football League. They say it can happen on any given Sunday. Well, surely it can only happen in the NFL. What am I talking about? Let's find out as we turn the page and look ahead to Week 6 in the NFL.
Graves on Gridiron with Richard Graves.
Welcome along to the show. This is Graves on Gridiron. I am your host, Richard Graves, and you heard me right. For the first time since Week 1, when he had a truly ordinary 0-2-1 record in picks against the line, it's a very warm welcome all the way from the Pacific Coast in North America. Daggers is back.
Hello, Richard, and hello, everybody. And you know what? I'm glad you said that and set me up, because I saw heard some very unsubtle digs in your introduction after a really ordinary start to the season. And who was your guest in Week 1? Me. So thank you very much. You gave me Week 1, and it's impossible to try and gauge where sides are at in Week 1, in the first week of the NFL season, and because you genuinely don't know what's coming out. You haven't a clue. You can only try and use your best guesses. But an 0-2-1 start from me wasn't great. A couple of things that also haven't gone great is that you sort of give your predictions on Super Bowl winners and the like. And my prediction for the Super Bowl...
Who did you pick again?
I may have gone for the lulling everyone in the NFL into a false sense of security Baltimore Ravens, who are just 1-4 at this moment in time, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, later, as that's one of our featured games. But it's not going well. I have to say, it's not going well. I'm feeling a little sheepish. When he said, "Oh, will you come on to the podcast again?" I felt like I was going to get hit at all angles, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Please feel free to shred me.
You misunderstand me. If nothing else, I and the show are all about redemption. It's an opportunity. That is the way you need to look at this opportunity.
Got to come back strong, Grogsy. I really do. Yes, in Vancouver. You can see Vancouver behind me. And do you know what the nicest thing? I'm here for a T10 league. They're doing it in Canada. There's a little bit of a sort of cricket is one of they're always sort of been in and around in the Associate Nations, but they're starting a T10 league. It should be very exciting. It starts tomorrow. But do you know what the best thing about being here is?
I've never been to Canada, so I do want to know.
Well, I only arrived yesterday. So I've not seen much of British Columbia as yet. The furthest I've gone is to the local Circle K supermarket just to get some Cokes and some popcorn. But the reason I got that, and the best thing about being on here, is that you can watch Monday Night Football at a normal time. I was enjoying Kansas City versus Jacksonville at 5:15 in the afternoon through till 9 o'clock in the evening, and there's no baggy eyes or anything like that. Fantastic to watch NFL football. So got that to look forward to all week.
Absolutely. And that is one of 6 games that I want to very quickly review before we look ahead to Week 6, the Week 6 action, because 6 different teams overcame double-digit deficits this past weekend to win games. The Tennessee Titans are winless no more. and I defy you to see a more mind-blowing, crazy game, if ever there was one in the NFL. They trailed by 18 in the desert to the Arizona Cardinals, and somehow managed to win 22-21. If you've not seen highlights of it, you've got to go and see highlights, because what happened to the Cardinals is the definition of throwing a game away. The Denver Broncos, incidentally, my pick for the Super Bowl champions this year.
You would bring that up.
Somebody openly mocked and poured scorn on at week 1. Daggers, I'm not going to mention any names or point any fingers, but they came back 14 down in the city of brotherly love to show the Eagles no love at all as they won 21-17. The Washington Commanders went to the West Coast, came from 10 down to beat the Chargers. The Carolina Panthers, they were 17 down at home to the Dolphins. And the Dolphins' season goes from bad to worse as they lost 27-24. The Saints recorded their first win of the season against the New York Giants, a game they trailed in by 11 points. But if you listened to this show last week, you'll have heard me tell you that Spencer Rattler and the New Orleans Saints were going to break that duck, and they did, as they won 26-14. And finally, Monday Night Football. Daggers, you just mentioned it. The Chiefs were 14-0 up in the first quarter. We saw a rarity. Patrick Mahomes, goal line interception that went for a pick 6. We saw fumbles. We saw, well, I don't quite know how you explain the roundabout way the Jags managed to win the game, with Trevor Lawrence not falling down once, but twice on the game-winning play to run in the touchdown. But it doesn't matter how you get them. It's about getting them. They won 31-28. They now have a 4-1 record against a Baltimore Ravens team who unbelievably are 1-4. Like you say, the Ravens are one of those games we're going to look at. Before we do, your thoughts are on 6 double-digit comebacks for victory.
I think the last one you mentioned, actually watching the game last night in the Kansas City, yes, they were 14-0 up. However, Jacksonville had gone all the way down, and Trevor Lawrence fumbles on the 1-yard line. So there are 14-0 leads and what should have been a 7-7 tie. And I don't think that necessarily showed the separation of the teams at that particular juncture. I think Jacksonville had moved the ball pretty well in their opening drive and the like. So from that perspective, great game of football, really good game of football. And like you say, how Trevor Lawrence managed to get over the goal line for the winning score. I mean, it was a calamity of errors. But you got to take them seriously this year, the Jags now, given, they look pretty decent defensively. Travis Hunter started making plays. He's had 1 or 2 in the previous games, but a really good 44-yard pickup yesterday, locating the ball that was sent from Lawrence. And I think his confidence is growing a little bit. But I want to take you back to that game with Arizona and the Tennessee Titans. I mean, Kyler Murray said afterwards, how to lose a game 101. I mean, you could not have scripted any more bonkers goings on than the interception fumble that moves forward and is picked up by Tennessee in the end zone. I mean, you don't care how you get them. It's a win for... And I just saw 1 or 2 things from Cam Ward, actually. I mean, this guy's got an arm. He's got frozen rope when he lets it go.
Sure.
And if you give him a slightly better supporting cast and an offensive line that can block for him, and these are things that Tennessee will hope will come over future drafts and free agency signings. But he's got something, he's got a bit of moxie. He had that in college as well. But I'm not saying this is the renaissance of the Tennessee Titans. They've still got a lot of holes in that roster. But it's always pleasing to see a side, pick up a victory. But Arizona, my goodness me. I mean, I really do wonder about them, because
I don't know where you start with this, because
DeMarcado's fumble as what was it, a 77-yard run, and he lets go of the ball before the end zone.
It's not the first time I've seen it. I remember Deshaun Jackson doing it on Monday Night Football as an Eagle against the Cowboys. It's happened.
The guy
since.
from the Colts.
Yes.
Name escapes me, but the wide receiver for the Colts in the game against the Rams, which the Colts should have won on that. I want to say it's Gordon, but it's his name escapes me at the moment. But another now in this instance, I don't think he was trying to do anything sort of show-offy. I don't think, when it went for the Colts to receive.
Hold on to the ball, Daggers.
But just hold on to the damn thing while you're crossing the goal line. Once you've crossed the goal line, do what you damn well please. But you make sure that you get the 6 for your team. And it's a litany of times it's happened. Twice already in this season, I can remember.
Well, you'd think that was bad enough, but by heck, if you want to find a way to trump and compound one mistake on top of another, the way the Titans actually end up taking the lead, Cam Ward throws an interception. The DB has it, takes a step, he's got possession of the ball, then fumbles it. The ball ping-pongs around and somehow lands at the feet of a Tennessee Titan in the end zone who just drops on it, says, thanks very much, that's a touchdown. And you're, what on earth is happening? What is going on?
As you're describing, I'm seeing it in my head. I must have watched it 4 or 5 times to actually sort of just try and comprehend how that occurs. But, I mean, great for the Tennessee Titans. There are some teams who really are sort of lost at sea at the moment, the New York Jets being one of them, the Miami Dolphins being another. I can't see how long Mike McDonald's got at Miami. From a Jets perspective, again, this is a side who have got some really serious pieces as well. And so, Breece Hall looks decent and Garrett Wilson on the outside and your offensive line is pretty steady and your defensive front is good and your secondary. So, I don't know how the New York Jets are going to piece it all together. But, I mean, another wild, fantastic, it really was a fantastic weekend of football. But there's no sides with zeros next to their name. Or one side, I should say, with zeros next to their name.
There is. Yeah. Trust me, in New York, they're saying there is.
There is, yeah, I should say.
It remains to be seen whether they can get that monkey off their back this weekend as the Jets face the Broncos at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. It's a tall order on the face of it. It's a game I'll be there covering for NFL Network. We will see what happens there. As a result of that, it's not a game we're going to preview in this week's podcast, but we are going to start with Charles Dagnall's pick to be Super Bowl champions. I'm glad he's laughing out loud. The 1-4 Baltimore Ravens. The 1-4 Baltimore Ravens at home will host the 3-2 LA Rams. The Rams themselves, of course, threw away a double-digit lead in a home defeat to the Washington Commanders last weekend, which is an issue for them. But the Ravens, I'm going to ask you for your opinion, but this was the list of inactives, some of the key players that weren't available due to injury for Baltimore last weekend. Pro Bowl left tackle Ronnie Stanley. Pro Bowl linebacker Roquan Smith. Pro Bowl safety Kyle Hamilton. Pro Bowl cornerback Marlon Humphrey. The reigning NFL MVP Lamar Jackson. And Pro Bowl fullback Patrick Ricard. In itself, you're looking at very nearly a Pro Bowl team just on the benches watching on. They got absolutely crushed 44-10 by a Houston Texans side that had only won one game going into that one. The Rams, for me, no question about it, are a better team than the Houston Texans. So how do you see this one shaping up?
I looked at the Baltimore Ravens injury report, and I've never seen an injury report with a page 2 on it. I've seen one where you get your list and there's sort of 7 or 8 names and there's doubtful and questionables and outs and all of that. And the Baltimore Ravens had a page 2. Having said that, this has got steadily worse over the course of the season. It wasn't the case that, in weeks 2 and 3, they still had a reasonable amount of people available. And it hasn't fired. This is a side. This is the Baltimore Ravens. And you mentioned all of those players. And injuries is one thing. And having your MVP, you can have injuries, but having Lamar Jackson out is your biggest worry. That is key. And I don't know, Richard, but I just don't see this being the age of Cooper Rush in the Baltimore Ravens. And as much as I'm sure you like him from his days in Dallas, I don't see that Cooper Rush is going to lead the side. Now, they've got a decision to make here, the Ravens, in that they've got a bye week after this week. And do you risk risk letting Lamar Jackson go, or do you risk your season being done? Because this is what you're toying with, even this early in the season. You cannot go down to 1-5, and 1-4 at the moment.
Here's the thing: I think you can go to 1-5, but it does mean that coming out of the bye week, you've got to string those wins together. There.
Yeah.
The problem I have with risking Lamar Jackson this week is if it doesn't happen and he re-aggravates that hamstring injury, then I don't think it matters what happens the rest of the season.
Yeah, true.
I think this team goes as Lamar Jackson goes. You look at Derrick Henry, he had 169 yards on the ground week 1 in that narrow defeat to the Buffalo Bills. Against the next 4 opponents, he's totaled 147 yards combined.
Yeah.
There is no run game at the moment for the Baltimore Ravens, which, again, is mind-boggling because that's largely what their offense is predicated on. So I think you might have to suck this one and say you're going to risk defeat. Whether you bring Tyler Huntley in at quarterback, that's an option.
Possibly.
His mobile is a bit more Lamar Jackson-esque. But you're going up against a Rams team that has Matthew Stafford, who is a guy that's been there, done it, knows what how to get around. He's already thrown 11 TD passes this year, and he's got a supporting cast in Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. You've got Kyron Williams at running back, who seems to be getting better, and a defense which is playing well. They have a +5 turnover differential.
So Baltimore, -5 turnover at the moment. This is a side that has got a history of being strong defensively. 31st overall defense. They're giving up 408 yards a game. They are last in the NFL. They're giving up 35 points a game. And this is something that just is so unlike a Baltimore Ravens side. I look at if Lamar Jackson does play, Rams 3rd overall in total sacks in the NFL. Fisk and Jared Verse, and that sort of defense is lively. So he's going to be scampering a little bit from that pass rush that the Rams have got. I can't quite work out the Rams at the moment. They beat the Colts, but they shouldn't have really won that game. Lost to the Eagles and the 49ers. They've beaten the Texans, they've beaten the Titans, they've beaten the Colts. I mean, a couple of decent wins in there. But if you look at the statistics, offensively, they are very, very tidy. I like the fact that, they're feeding Nacua. 52 receptions through 5 weeks, 52 for 588. Devontae is there as a really good backup in 22 for 357. And they've got this deep threat now in Tutu Atwell, who they're just, he's only got 4 receptions. Granted, one was an 88-yard touchdown, but he is a deep threat. Now, he had another deep threat loss.
He stretches the field.
He does. Kyron Williams, Blake Corum. I think they're a really rounded offense. And I think you're a side giving up 35 points a game. Yes, I know the Rams are coming into your building, but I still think that it is a very, very stiff ask for this Baltimore Ravens side, as banged up as they are, as low on confidence as they are. If you're the LA Rams, you look at the beginning of the season, you look at this game on your schedule, and I think you're thinking, goodness me, that's going to be one of our stiffest tests. If you're going now to the Baltimore Ravens, this is absolutely the time where you can take advantage of that.
Well, and as a result, I think largely of what we saw last week, but the fact that this Ravens defense gave up 41 points to Buffalo, 38 to the Lions, 37 to the Chiefs, and then 44 this weekend to the Texans. The Ravens, incredibly, are 8-point underdogs coming into this game. So what say you, Daggers?
I don't know if that is too far of a stretch for me. I think the Rams will go in there. I think they will take care of business. I don't like the margin. I would take the under on that slightly. I still think Rams will get the victory, but I don't think it's going to be as wide a margin as that. But again, so much depends on what the injury reports give us this week. But as it stands at the moment, I like the Rams to take this one. I don't think it's going to be 8 points and over.
Well, we're recording this on Tuesday afternoon UK time. So like you say, the injury report will be crucial. I don't get the feeling, though, that Lamar Jackson will play in this game. They've got a bye week coming up. He did not practice at all last weekend. If he doesn't play, I don't think the Ravens offense plays. So you're taking the Ravens to cover at +8. I'm taking the LA Rams to go into Baltimore and not only win, but blow the doors off the place and cover at -8.
Okay.
We have a divergence of opinion right there in our first game. We've got 2 more to come. Stay tuned to Graves on Gridiron.
Graves on Gridiron with Richard Graves.
Welcome back to Graves on Gridiron. 3 games as always to pick from the Week 6 slate. 1 is in the books. The Rams at the Ravens. The Rams 8-point favourites going into Baltimore. Well, that's because the Ravens haven't been playing that well through the first 5 weeks of the season. Charles Dagnall has faith. He is clinging on by his fingernails to his pre-season pick for the Super Bowl and says the Ravens will cover at +8. I'm not having any of it. I'm taking the Rams to go in.
Still saying they're going to lose.
I don't want to hear it, Daggers. Sooner or later, you're going to have to look at the man in the mirror and see what he says to you. But Daggers, you've gone with the Ravens to cover. I've got the Rams covering at -8. Next up, it is the Detroit Lions against the Kansas City Chiefs. I love how this one's shaping up. We've seen a bit of life from the Chiefs. I think Xavier Worthy coming back gives Patrick Mahomes more weapons. We've seen that 2 weeks running now in the win over the Ravens, and then down at Jacksonville. Okay, they came up short last night, but I think the offense looks completely different. The Detroit Lions, though, whoa, watch out. The number 1 ranked scoring offense in the NFL right now. And the beauty about it is Jared Goff isn't having to do it all. They're ranked number 12 in the NFL this season when it comes to passing offense, but they're number 1 in points scored, and they have just been destroying teams since that week 1 loss up there in Green Bay. We always say, or I always say, that be careful what you see in week 1. It can be a liar for the season ahead. Well, the Lions seem to be bearing testament to that, Daggers.
Yeah, really, they really have come back strongly. And we wondered if this, with the change of coordinators, both offensively and defensively, would make a difference to the Detroit Lions. And after week 1, people are going, oh, well, it might do, John Morton, new offensive coordinator. Has he got the same, chutzpah as Ben Johnson did? As it turns out, needn't have worried because they're still as thoroughly entertaining. They're still throwing out stuff that we haven't seen before. They're still creative. And I will sort of temper that with who they have beaten, however. You've beaten a Bengals side without Joe Burrow. You've beaten a Cleveland Browns side who, yes, defensively, they're very, very strong, but they've got nothing going on offense. A Baltimore Ravens, which are down in the dumps, and a Chicago Bears side at home after being defeated by the Green Bay Packers. So I think...
but Daggers, let me cut in there, because it's not the fact they've beaten, it's the manner for me.
Yes. They have been...
You put 52 on the board against the Bears.
Yeah.
38 against the Ravens. The Browns, supposedly one of the top 5 defensive units in the NFL. Well, you slammed 34 more on them, and then you put the Bengals away, easing down last week.
They did. They didn't get out of third last week.
This offense is absolutely purring.
They didn't get out of third gear last week against the Bengals. And when that 1-2 punch, which is so threatening in David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, if one doesn't get you, the other's gonna. Both have got over 300 yards. They're averaging, Jahmyr Gibbs, 4.6 yards a carry, 5.1 for David Montgomery, 4 touchdowns each. And they just seem to celebrate each other's successes as well. And that's what I love about this pairing. It's not, there's a real sense of selflessness about this ground game of Detroit. And maybe that's something that Dan Campbell has instilled into the Detroit Lions over the last 3 years. Do you remember a couple of years back, Rich, when these two sides met? And I think it was the opening Monday night game of the season. It must have been sort of 4 years ago, I think it was, this time of the year. And it really, and the Detroit Lions overcame the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead. And this was the first sign of this new Detroit Lions side coming together under Dan Campbell. I remember it specifically. It was a hell of a game. I think it was a 1-point victory for Detroit. You'll have to check, or someone will have to check. I'm sure someone will. And I think it was something like a 22-21 victory for Detroit. But it was a thrilling game, brilliant game of Monday Night Football. And so I'm kind of hoping for a similar sort of game. I think these are two sides which are really well matched going. I don't think necessarily Detroit will have, as going into Arrowhead with the noise and the Kansas City Chiefs side who are sort of finding their feet a little bit. You mentioned Xavier Worthy. I saw him yesterday hobble off the field again. In sort of maybe hurting that ankle once more. That's a little bit of a concern. Maybe it might just be a little bit of bruising or whatever. And if he is available for the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm with you. I think he gives Patrick Mahomes more option. But my bigger worry for Kansas City is they can't run it at this moment in time. Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, the leading rusher for the Chiefs is Patrick Mahomes at the moment. And when you look at the pass rush for Detroit, Aiden Hutchinson's got 5 sacks. They're second overall as a team. They are +6 in turnovers, 6 interceptions. Kirby Joseph is so threatening, in that secondary, caused 3 fumbles. This is a Detroit Lions who are causing problems both sides of the ball. What say you?
I say you've got 2 good defenses on the field here, regardless of the fact that the Jags were able to put 31 points on the board against the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Steve Spagnuolo in this defense has been carrying the Chiefs for a long time. I don't think that the quality of that unit can be underestimated. But I do think that you're seeing flickers of life on an offense now that has struggled for the best part of 2.5 years. They're ranked number 12 in scoring, averaging around 25 points a game this season, 8th in total offense. There's definitely something there. However, I'm bound to say, you look at the Detroit Lions, they're playing well on both sides of the ball. I do think losing Terrion Arnold, their top cornerback at the moment, is a problem, especially when you consider that their bona fide number 1 corner, DJ Reed, is also missing. So now you're down your 2 top corners, potentially 3 in the depth chart as well. And you look at what you're going up against, you say, well, it's Xavier Worthy, it's Travis Kelce, it's Tyquan. They're not necessarily elite.
It's Hollywood Brown. Yeah, it's Juju Smith-Schuster. He's got options, hasn't he?
However, like you say, the Lions have recent memories of going to Arrowhead and coming away in a feverish atmosphere and getting the win. I don't think this team fears anybody right now, and nor should they, the way they're playing offensively. Like you've said, they've got pass rushers on that defensive line as well. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be running for his life if he holds onto the ball too long in this. So the game plan from Andy Reid is going to be get the ball out and get it out quick. Can they make enough plays? Can they keep the ball away from the Lions' offense enough? Well, only the Green Bay Packers have been able to do that so far. And what we've seen since then, well, you prodded the bear, from what I can see. Look, the Lions are 1-point favourites going into Arrowhead. On this podcast a couple of weeks ago, when the Ravens went into Arrowhead as favourites, I said, don't be stupid. I'm taking the Chiefs all day long. And that was even with the dagger's kiss of death on Baltimore's shoulders.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, well, the Lions, should I say, are not the Baltimore Ravens in 2025. They are a much better team. And as much as I like the Chiefs at home, and I do think home field advantage is real in KC, it's not going to be enough this weekend. Give me the Detroit Lions at -1.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see a really entertaining game. That's one thing I think we will see, is a really, really watchable game between these two sides. I don't think you can have... I can't wait to see the way, as you mentioned, that Andy Reid game plans for this. And I agree with you. I think we see a lot of sort of short, quick, 1.5 second releases from Patrick Mahomes and go and let his playmakers go and try and make plays out there with yards after the catch. I don't see this running game being, improving anytime soon for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm with you, though. I think it'll be a good game. I've got the Lions covering that quite happily. But I think we're going to see a really, really entertaining game. I think they are playing some fabulous football. I think they've got the fizz at this moment in time. The Detroit Lions, I don't think it matters where they go and who they play against at this moment. I think confidence is right. Yes, they've lost those two top corners, but the majority of that side is fit and healthy and purring at the moment.
I agree with you. Wouldn't you know it? A little bit of harmony on this week's preview.
Yes.
I like
finally.
This is good. Like I say, it's an opportunity for redemption, Daggers.
Yeah, no, do you know what? I feel like the Baltimore Ravens with my picks at this moment in time. I'm having the similar kind of season to them.
Well, let's not dwell on the past. I only like to look forward. So we're going to do that with a third and final game picks from this week's slate. And for me, this is an intriguing one because the Buffalo Bills were one of the last two undefeated teams heading into week 5. Well, they got upset on home turf by the New England Patriots on Sunday Night Football. And now they go on the road to Atlanta to face a Falcons team who've had extra time to prepare. They're fresh off a bye week this weekend with a 2-2 record. How do you see this one shaping up?
I don't know who the Atlanta Falcons are at this moment in time.
I could not agree more.
I see bits of really good stuff from them. And look, remember, being a Bucs fan, I'm quite happy to see a really ordinary Atlanta Falcons side. But I think there's something there. I really do think they are a side that is trending upwards. However, then you go, what was it? They went to, was it Washington last time out? They went to, they took on Washington and beat the Commanders there. That's a pretty steady victory for them. But then you go and lose to the Carolina Panthers and you're shut out. 30 points to nil against the Carolina Panthers. I don't know who this side is. Things that I like seeing from the Falcons' perspective. I like seeing that finally Kyle Pitts is getting his hands on the ball. He's been wasted there for 3 years or so. He's finally getting his hands on the ball and showing what a number 4 overall pick or whatever he was, I think he was 4 overall pick, can do. Drake London is getting numbers. Bijan Robinson is getting numbers. And I think Michael Penix is actually showing, let's remember, this guy is essentially a rookie. I know he played it a couple of times last year, but this is his first full season as a starter. And he's still finding out things about the NFL. It can seem very quick. And he's 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a couple of bad interceptions, I have to say. But having said that, I think there is something there with this Atlanta Falcons. They are number 1 in team defense at the moment in the NFL. This is, they draft defensively. They went back into the first round in the NFL draft. They're giving up 135 yards a game through the air. Granted, you can run the ball on them, but these are signs, positive signs for an Atlanta Falcon defense, which was just so wishy-washy over the last sort of 4 or 5 seasons or so. So these are good signs. They're 2-2. They've just had a bye week. So they are in a good space, I think, to receive a side who will be hurting that they've just been defeated at Orchard Park by the New England Patriots, by a division rival. So I'm leaning, of course, as you would lean heavily towards history and the Buffalo Bills in a game against the Atlanta Falcons. But I don't know who they are as yet. I think that they are trending upwards. But to sort of say Buffalo are coming into your house, I've still got to lean on Josh Allen's side. What about you?
Well, this is why I think this is an interesting game to pick, because the Falcons are 4.5-point underdogs at home. The last time they played here, they took care of the Washington Commanders. But like you say, who are you getting? Michael Penix is the great unknown for me, because as well as he played against the Commanders, they did lean heavily on a running game. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algiers, both had days in that win against the Commanders. The week before was the concern for me. I know this cannot be put purely and squarely on the shoulders of Michael Penix, but in that game against the Carolina Panthers, they didn't cross the 30-yard line once. Do you know how hard that is to do? not get past the 30-yard line. That takes some doing. Now, you've had an extra week to prepare because you've been on a bye week, but here come a wounded Buffalo Bills team. Josh Allen, hands up, immediately after the game said, "We played sloppy football. You cannot win games in the NFL playing football like that." I saw an interception thrown in his own half. I saw a fumble by Kenyon Coleman in their own half. I've got to tell you, I think that the Bills are out to prove a point this weekend. And you look at this offense that rolls into Atlanta now, ranks third overall, seventh in passing offense, third in points on the board. They're averaging 30.6 points per game. Well, I tell you what, you say this Falcons defense is much improved and good. They better be, because they're going to need to be coming into this game.
Yeah.
And I don't see, as good as Drake London is, I don't see a Stephon Diggs-like performance coming against this Bills defense from the Falcons receivers. So I'm looking at a Bills team that ranks ninth overall on defense, that feels it's got a point to prove. I like Buffalo for this. I think they're one of, if not, in fact, the best team in the AFC right now, even considering they lost last weekend to the New England Patriots. Flat up, I'm tying my colours to their mast. I'm taking the Bills to cover at -4.5.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you. There is more harmony, and I like it when we are harmonious, Richard. I really do. Rather than us flicking text messages to each other, you should see it. By the way, viewers and listeners, you should see the text messages that fly that hit when his Super Bowl pick the Denver Broncos lose. I am just all over it, but. I'm with you. Do you know what I like about Buffalo as well is that they share the wealth a little bit. James Cook is having a great season. I mean, having a really, really good season. He's already at 450 yards. He's 5 yards a carry. And when the Atlanta Falcon defense is weaker in the rushing game, that's a bit of a worry for me. And then that just frees up Josh Allen. And he spreads the ball so well, does Josh Allen. There's no sort of out-and-out number one receiver there at Buffalo. You look at the stats. Dalton Kincaid's got 20 catches. Shakir has 22. Kenny Coleman, 21. And then he can also use his backs as well that he does so well. So he spreads out. He shares the love. And it's a sort of difficult one for defenses to know where to sort of concentrate a little bit. I like the Buffalo Bills in this one. I do. I think they're hurting, losing at home against a division rival. And I think really good teams, sometimes, if you're 8-0 or 10-0 or something like that, sometimes I actually think it's quite good to just get a reset, and early on in the season, it's not going to harm you massively. And for a side like the Buffalo Bills, I think you'll see them, Sean McDermott and Josh Allen will have them a lot tidier. I think a little bit of a reset, and I have them going despite. But I also I would like to see how the Falcons. What Falcons side are we getting? Are they going to? They might lose, but are you going to test the Buffalo Bills? This is a really good gauge to see where they're at this moment in time. But I'm like you. I've got the Buffalo Bills.
I completely agree, but I do want to see Bijan Robinson find the end zone and run amok because he's in my fantasy team, and that also matters.
Oh, selfish.
Just a reminder, two teams are on a bye this week, the Houston Texans and Minnesota Vikings. But let's recap the three games we've picked going into week 6. First of all, Rams at Ravens. The Ravens on this dreadful run are 8-point underdogs at home to the Los Angeles Rams. Daggers says, give me the Ravens to cover at +8. I couldn't disagree more. The Rams are going to go in there and make a statement. They're one of the best teams in the NFC. They'll not only win, but they'll cover at -8. Then it's on to one of the games, if not in fact the game of the weekend. The Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Detroit Lions. The odds makers can't put a slip of paper between these two. The Chiefs are 1-point underdogs at home, but the Detroit Lions are just too damn good on offense. That's what me and Daggers think anyway. We're both taking the Lions to cover at -1. And then we round off in Atlanta with the Falcons hosting the Bills. The Falcons rested off a bye week. The Bills with a point to prove and are 4.5-point favorites on the road. They'll get the job done and cover at 4.5. A reminder, as always, you can hit us up on social media. On X, it's at RichardGraves1. On Instagram, it's RDG Media UK. Equally, Daggers, if they want to tap into that font of information and wealth of knowledge that you have, where can they find you?
They can find me at Charles Dagnall on both Instagram and on X. But please don't shred me. Please, I get enough of it as it is. But I want to quickly take issue with you. You say possibly the game of the weekend. I think we know what the game of the weekend is. And we will have the 4-1 San Francisco 49ers going to the 4-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Raymond James Stadium. And I think you'll find that is the game of the weekend. Going into, by the way, just quickly, I don't know if you caught it, but did you see the Bucs and Seahawks game?
I did see the Bucs and Seahawks game.
It was a sensational game. One of the games of the season for me. Two high-quality sides. I'm really pleased Sam Darnold is doing well up in Seattle. I think they've upgraded from Geno Smith. But obviously, I was delighted to get the Buccaneers with victory in Seattle, which I think is quite a good effort from the Bucs. But what a game of football that was in Northwest USA.
Do you know, we nearly got through an entire episode without mentioning the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I've got to have something good going my way.
And if you do follow Charles Dagnall on social media, you, like me, will have seen in big emblazoned capital letters on Sunday, before that game picked off, "Let's bake, baby." And what I will say about this is, if you are going to talk the talk, baby, you better walk the walk. And for anybody that saw pre-game in Seattle, Baker Mayfield was talking the talk and a bit of sign language with those Seahawks fans. But by God, he came up trumps at the end. Oh,
great game. Great game. And goodness me, look at what he's done in the 4 victories. You know, we were thinking, you know, Bucs fans sort of, look, he's keeping us in games here. These last-minute drives that he's putting together, and the calm composure, and you know, him using his legs in the way that he does, and he's just this belief that he's got in getting the Bucs down the field in a situation where he needs to win. It almost seems like then he needs that to get the best out of him. But this is I don't want to speak too early here, Richard, but a lot of people have been talking, and I don't want to put the 3 letters in front of his name just yet, but he surely has to be in the early season conversation for MVP. Because
he's the number 2 ranked quarterback through the first 5 weeks. So of course he does. Do you know who the number 1 is out of interest?
Number 1, go on.
Number 1 ranked quarterback.
Number 1 ranked quarterback. Isn't it someone ridiculous like Marcus Mariota? Go on, hit me.
It is somebody that MetLife Stadium rang to the chance of MVP this past Sunday. And it wasn't Justin Fields.
It's Dak. Yeah, it's Dak. Of course it's Dak.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention his name, but I'm glad you've brought it up.
Yeah. Here we go. Do you know what? He is, and again, he is playing at as good as I have ever seen Dak play. And he's had some decent seasons, but this is, I believe this is a different Dak this season. I think the numbers that he is putting up, and granted, he's been without his number 1 target for the last couple of weeks, hasn't he? But then George Pickens has stepped up for the Dallas Cowboys and sort of nicely gone into that role. Cowboys, well, it's nice to see the Cowboys relevant.
And on that note, with one hand he giveth, with the other he taketh away. Charles Dagnall, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward with interest to see how your Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens fare this weekend, and whether or not that life flame is going to be well and truly snuffed out. No doubt we shall be in conversation on Sunday night.
We shall. If the Ravens don't do it, I'm staying here. Always a pleasure,
as
Rich.
always.
Thanks for having me on.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye, Daggers.
So long, everybody.
Subscribe to Graves on Gridiron wherever you listen to podcasts. And keep up to date with the latest on Twitter. Search for Richard Graves 1. That's Richard Graves, the number 1.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.